This is the woman accused of crushing her 5-week-old son's skull and then throwing his body away outside her Hamilton apartment. She's 25-year-old Asuncion Avila-Villa.
She's just basically has beaten this baby to death. I mean, and then again, as you know from the bill of particulars, she put the baby, wrapped the baby up and put the baby in the trash, you know, to be thrown out with garbage.
A Hamilton mother accused of killing her 5-week-old son and throwing his body in the trash has been declared competent to stand trial. Asuncion Avila-Villa, 26 years old, is charged with aggravated murder and several other felonies, including abusing Israel Santos's body and having sex with a minor teen. Prosecutors say she killed her baby to escape punishment for having sex with the underage boy. Nastoff scheduled the hearing last week after Avila-Villa invoked her right to remain silent when the judge attempted to quiz her about her understanding of the legal proceedings. Defense attorney Chris Pagan advised his client not to answer questions, noting possible future difficulties in her defense. Pagan told the judge that the defense has not raised the issue of incompetence but is attempting to collect medical records to determine whether that issue should be raised at all. Assistant Prosecutor Jason Philibom noted that the defense counsel raised mental health issues and asked for a psychiatrist to aid in the defense. He said he wanted to clear the record on Avila-Villa's competency and requested the hearing. Detective Paul Davis testified Friday that when he interviewed the mother in August after she reported the infant missing, he found her behavior unusual. She was very calm, Davis said. When he told her that she was not acting like a mother whose child had been missing for 12 hours, Avila-Villa attempted emotion. She didn't say anything. She forced out one tear and quit, Davis said. Asuncion, Suzie. Avila-Villa told police who were searching for her baby that she reported missing in August and that she had a mental illness. Still, according to testimony Friday, February 12th, the woman was able to answer questions and even confessed to killing the baby after she flunked a lie detector test. Hamilton Police Detective Paul Davis testified that Avila-Villa told him she suffered from mental health issues. She said she had bipolar disorder, Davis said, noting she told him she was on medication for her condition. The detective said he talked to neighbors in the apartment complex about Avila-Villa's behavior, but they didn't mention her mental illness, only her shortcomings as a mother. That she wasn't a good mother at all. She was very abusive to the 3-year-old girl, and the 3-year-old girl did everything around the house, Davis said. Assistant Prosecutor Jason Philibom asked Davis if the mother's unusual behavior was appropriate for a murderer trying to cover up a crime. "I believe it was appropriate for that," Davis said. Detective Mark Hayes testified that Avila-Villa failed a polygraph test at the Hamilton Police Department in the hours after she reported her child missing, when police told her they believed she was not telling the truth. The mother changed her story and admitted to police that she grabbed the infant by the face and shook him before he died. A Hamilton mother accused of killing her 5-week-old son and throwing his body in the trash told the judge Wednesday, February 3rd, that she was invoking her right to remain silent when he began to ask about her competency to stand trial. Asuncion, Suzie, Avila-Villa, dressed in bright orange jail garb, told Butler County Common Pleas Judge Andrew Nastoff, on the advice of counsel, I invoke my Fifth Amendment privilege. Avila-Villa, 26, is charged with aggravated murder and several other felonies, including abusing Israel Santos's body and having sex with a teenager. Prosecutors say she killed her baby to escape punishment for having sex with the underage boy. She had an appointment with the county's Job and Family Services a few days after the infant's death. That would have forced her to name the baby's father or risk losing her public benefits, according to prosecutors. Defense attorney Chris Pagan told Nastoff he advised his client not to answer questions if she was quizzed, noting possible future difficulties in her defense. Nastoff then scheduled a hearing for February 12th to address her competency. The hearing will not include statements by the defendant or testimony of a mental health professional, because the judge has not yet ordered a psychological evaluation of Avila-Villa. The judge said he would anticipate testimony from lay people who have interacted with the defendant and observed her cognitive skills. Assistant Prosecutor Jason Philibom filed a motion 2 weeks ago requesting a competency evaluation, noting that the defense counsel raised mental health issues and the defense asked for a psychiatrist. Philibom said he is not alleging Avila-Villa is incompetent, noting they believe she was calculated in her actions surrounding her son's death. However, because of the statements made by defense attorneys, Philibom said he wants to ensure that the competency issue is addressed and does not become an issue later in an appeal. During last month's hearing, Pagan said, "I have no concern about her ability to communicate with me, but she has serious difficulty articulating the circumstance surrounding the issue." He added that Avila-Villa has a significant mental health background. Pagan said during Wednesday's hearing that the defense has not raised the issue of incompetence, but is attempting to collect medical records to determine whether that issue should be raised at all. He said he plans to travel to California next week to explore his client's past. Nestoff said, "I don't believe the issue of competency has been raised at this juncture." The judge said the argument was absurd because the state and defense had not technically raised the issue of competency. A Hamilton mother avoided the possibility of the death penalty as she pleaded guilty Tuesday to the aggravated murder of her infant son. Asuncion. Suzie, Avila-Villa, 27, has been sentenced to life in prison without the possibility of parole in exchange for her guilty pleas, which included admitting to 3 other felony charges. Avila-Villa has been in the Butler County Jail since August 2009, a few days after she told police the father of her son kidnapped 35-day-old Israel Santos. On Tuesday, in Butler County Common Pleas Court, she cried as she spoke to her family before sentencing. "Even if I am in prison, I can still be their mother," the mother of 4 said. "I hope they will understand and not judge me for what I have done when they grow up." Her sister, who attended most of Avila-Villa's hearings, was in court with 2 of her children. Avila-Villa's children are being raised by her sisters. The 2 oldest daughters were permitted to visit with their mother before she was taken back to jail. The family declined to comment. In addition to admitting to the murder of her baby, Avila-Villa pleaded guilty to gross abuse of a corpse, tampering with evidence, and unlawful sexual conduct with a minor. According to the facts of the case, Avila-Villa killed the child and threw his body in the trash behind her Schuler Avenue residence to cover up the crime. Prosecutors have said she killed her baby to escape punishment for having sex with the underage male who fathered the child. Avila-Villa gave up the right to appeal her case by taking the plea. Butler County Prosecutor Michael Gamoser said Avila-Villa's mental health issues before, during, and after her child's death likely would be sufficient mitigation for her to avoid the death penalty at trial or in future appeals. He said Avila-Villa admitted to her crimes, which he called horrific. The complete admission of guilt across the board, coupled with her documented mental health issues, made this the right thing to do, Gamoser said. Defense attorney Melinda Cook said she is happy we were able to get this done for her. Co-counsel Chris Pagan could not be reached for comment. Court records shed new light on the case of a Hamilton mother facing the death penalty for allegedly killing her 35-day-old son to avoid being prosecuted for having sex with the boy's underage father. Asuncion. Avila-Villa, 26, faces possible execution if convicted, but her lawyers are challenging the constitutionality of Ohio's death penalty laws, and they're also asking a judge to keep reporters out of pretrial hearings in the case, records show. Avila-Villa at first told police that her boyfriend had kidnapped the child, and she filed a missing persons report last August. But after investigators informed her they had found her baby in the trash they were sorting behind the police station, Avila-Villa had first sat silently, then cried and told police that she had shaken the infant's head as he sat in his bouncy seat to try to stop him from crying, according to a police summary of her statements to them. She probably shook his head harder than she meant to shake him, says the summary filed December 17th in Butler County Common Pleas Court. However, police said Avila-Villa denied causing any of the bruises or broken bones that investigators found on the child's body. The child, Israel Santos, was malnourished. He weighed 9 pounds at death, only 1 ounce more than his birth weight, according to coroner Dr. Richard Burkhart's report filed in court. The child died from extensive skull fracture with underlying brain injury, the report says. The report says Israel was wearing only a diaper, and several pink flowers were inside the plastic bag with his body. Prosecutors allege the baby was buried along with items consistent with a gang-style burial intended to prevent the corpse from being found by police. Documents, except for the pink flowers, do not specify what those items were. Authorities accuse Avila-Villa of killing the infant 3 days before she was scheduled for an appointment with Butler County Job and Family Services, where she would have been required to identify the baby's father by providing his name and submitting to genetic testing or risk losing benefit payments, court records say. Avila-Villa is charged with aggravated murder, gross abuse of a corpse, tampering with evidence, and unlawful sexual conduct with a minor, the 15-year-old boy who fathered the child after alleged sexual relations in late 2008. Judge Andrew Nastoff has set hearings for January 8th and February 12 on numerous matters, including defense contentions that Ohio's death penalty law is unconstitutional and violates international law. Defense lawyers filed a 39-page argument on that issue, alleging that the state's executions are meted out unfairly when it comes to race, and Ohio's death penalty scheme fails to ensure that arbitrary and discriminatory imposition of the death penalty will not occur. Defense lawyers want the judge to dismiss the portions of the case that elevate the alleged crimes to death penalty status. Prosecutors filed an 18-page response concluding, Ohio's death penalty is constitutional, despite any alleged conflict with international law and specific treaties. Defense lawyers are also asking Nastoff to close pretrial hearings. They argue that news coverage of pretrial hearings could taint the jury pool by providing potential jurors with information they should not possess. Prosecutors say court proceedings are generally expected to be public, and they see no reason for closing the hearings in the case. A motion outlining the charges against a Hamilton mother accused of killing her 5-week-old son was filed by the prosecution Tuesday, September 29th, alleging Asuncion Avila-Villa used a gang-style burial when she stuffed the infant's body in a garbage can. Asuncion Suzie Avila-Villa, 25, could face the death penalty if convicted of aggravated murder, endangering children, gross abuse of a corpse, tampering with evidence, and unlawful sexual conduct with a minor. She is scheduled to appear in Butler County Common Pleas Judge Andrew Nastoff's courtroom today, September 30th at 1 p.m. for a hearing. At the time of his death, 5-week-old Israel Santos was malnourished and had numerous injuries, including broken bones, abrasions, and bruises, according to court records. Butler County Coroner Dr. Richard Burkhart said the baby died of a crushed skull. Burkhart said Israel weighed 9 pounds when he died. His birth weight was 8 pounds 13 ounces. She wasn't feeding him enough, Burkhart said. Avila-Villa killed her baby to escape detection, apprehension, trial, or punishment for having sex with an underage teen, who is the father of the child, according to the prosecution. The mother had an appointment at Job and Family Services on August 27th, and she would have been required to identify the baby's father by name and DNA or risk losing her public benefits, according to Assistant Prosecutor Jason Philibaum. Social workers at the agency would have been required to report Avila-Villa's unlawful sexual conduct with a minor to authorities. Avila-Villa is accused of having sex with a 14-year-old boy on at least 2 occasions, once in October 2008 and once in November 2008. The infant's corpse was put in a trash bag with items consistent with a gang-style burial, intended to prevent the cops from being found by police, according to the court documents. Defense attorney Melinda Cookreich said she had just received a copy of the prosecution's filing and had not had time to review it. "We have zero comment," said Cookreich, who is defending Avila-Villa, along with law partner Chris Pagan. Avila-Villa is being held in the Butler County Jail instead of a $1 million bond. Investigators say the Hamilton mother charged with killing her 5-week-old son and putting the body in a garbage can murdered the child to cover up who fathered the baby. A grand jury has indicted Asuncion Avila-Villa, 26, for unlawful sexual conduct with a minor. According to the indictment, the father is under the age of 16. Villa is also charged with aggravated murder, tampering with evidence, and gross abuse of a corpse. She's trying to get rid of the baby so no one will discover that the father was under the age of 16, said Butler County Prosecutor Robin Piper. Piper will not say who the alleged father is. He says it was inevitable that someone would eventually find Villa out. Investigators tell 9 News Villa was on public assistance, and if she wanted to keep getting it, she had to help identify the father. They also say the baby, Israel Santos, was found dead just days before a DNA test was set to be conducted. Santos was found in a plastic bag in a garbage can last week behind Villa's apartment building on Schuler Avenue. Piper says he will seek the death penalty. "I can't remember in the history of Butler County another indictment when a woman was alleged to be the principal offender in a capital punishment case, but the facts warrant this indictment," says Piper. The coroner says Santos had skull fractures and a broken arm. Investigators found the baby after Villa called to report an ex-boyfriend picked up the infant and never brought it back. Detectives say she made up the story. Authorities say they started looking for the baby after Villa called them on August 24 and tried to cover up what happened. Villa told the 911 dispatcher, "I was just calling because one of my ex-boyfriends came to pick up one of my sons. He said he was going to take him. He hasn't come back yet." Detectives worked the case all night before they found the baby in the garbage can on August 25th. Villa was arrested last week and charged with murder, abuse of a corpse, and tampering with evidence. She's being held on a $1 million bond. Now that the grand jury has added the charge of unlawful sexual conduct with a minor to that list, people who know Villa are appalled. "I don't know the words to describe it. It's just gross," says Stephanie Boggs, who lives across the street and held Santos the week before he died. Villa also has 3 other children. Villa will return to court Tuesday afternoon to be arraigned on the indictment charges. A judge set bond this morning at $1 million for a Butler County mother of 5 who is accused of killing her 35-day-old son. Asuncion Avila-Villa, 25, stood silently before Judge Daniel Gattermeyer in Hamilton Municipal Court as municipal prosecutor. Mary Dudley read the allegations. A few spectators in the courtroom, who were there for other cases, covered their mouths as they heard Avila-Villa was accused of murder, child endangering, abuse of a corpse, and tampering with evidence. She was arrested Tuesday, a day after she called 911 to report her son had been missing since Sunday from her apartment on Schuler Avenue in Hamilton. Authorities say the child was never missing, and Avila-Villa made the false report after killing her child and putting him in the trash. Authorities say this is the first time in decades that a Butler County mother is accused of a fatal beating of her child. The baby, Israel Santos, suffered a crushed skull, a broken arm, and other injuries authorities won't talk about. Butler County Coroner Richard Burkhart ruled the death a homicide and said the child had been dead for a day or 2 by the time police discovered his body amid trash that they had brought from Avila-Villa's apartment to the police station as part of their investigation of the missing child report. The child's teen father is not a suspect, police say. Today, in court, when Gattermeyer asked whether she worked, she said, no. When he asked whether she would get an attorney or needed a court-appointed one, she replied, "I need one." Those were the only words she spoke during her few minutes in court. Gattermeyer set her next court date for September 2nd. At that hearing, prosecutors must present some of the evidence against Avila-Villa to show probable cause, whether there is enough evidence to convince a judge that a crime probably happened and that Avila-Villa may have committed it. That date will be canceled. If Butler County prosecutor Robin Piper can push the case through a grand jury and obtain an indictment before then. Piper has said he will try to persuade the grand jury to indict Avila-Villa on charges that could bring the death penalty if she is convicted. That means her. Attorney must be chosen from a short list of lawyers certified by the Ohio Supreme Court to handle death penalty cases.
Early next year.